welcome back to the Earth Dawn Survival Guide, the podcast for all disciplines, paths, players, and game masters. With your questers, Josh and Dan, I am Dan.
Forsooth, I am Josh.
He is. And on today's podcast, we will be discussing all things messengerical or deliverical. I made up words again. I'm back at that. If you have any questions for us, please drop us a line at edsgpodcast@gmail.com. We're going to talk about Vivane Adventures number 2, A Message to Vivane. We think, maybe, finally, I have my problem solved with software and everything else. So we'll see how this goes. Apologies, profuse apologies for the last 2 months of I've been browbeaten by a bunch of technological problems, and I think I have them finally solved. So, how you doing, Josh?
I'm doing pretty well. As of this recording, we open Julius Caesar tomorrow.
Nice.
So when this episode comes out, we probably will have, of course, completed our first weekend of shows. But yeah, it's a good show. I'm enjoying it a great deal.
Scratching that itch.
I love live theater. I really do.
Which came first? The
AI can't do that.
Theater. The role-play gaming or the live theater? Which came first? Chicken and egg.
The role-playing, technically.
Fair. Okay.
They didn't really get linked for me until, like, high school.
Gotcha.
I first played a D&D game. I was in, like, it must have been 3rd grade?
Wow.
4th grade, maybe? Something like that. I was in elementary school.
Fair.
And I didn't really start doing theater seriously. I had done, like, little school plays and pageants at Christmas pageants or whatever. But I don't consider that I started doing theater seriously until my sophomore year of high school.
Fair.
And even then, bringing my acting stuff into my role-playing didn't come until even later than that. As I got more experience as a GM and started to bring those skills to bear in portraying my characters rather than being kind of a more crunchy, numbers-focused
person.
Kind of person. Timeline-wise, the RPGs came first. The theater came later. But, boy, I really enjoy it. And the fact that I've done like 5 or 6 shows in the past, 2 years or so, 2 years and change has just been so wonderful.
Yeah.
I enjoy it such a great deal.
You're exercising a different part of yourself that you haven't done for a while. And so that's...
And I'm doing Shakespeare, and I love Shakespeare. I really do.
Yeah, there's not a lot of middle ground on Shakespeare. You either love him or you hate him.
Yeah. I don't know that I mentioned this on the show or not. If I did, I'm repeating myself, but I'm going to say it anyway. In high school, when I think it was between my junior and senior years, later in high school, I basically did a summer where I read a whole bunch of Shakespeare. So my grandfather died when I was a freshman. And then a couple of years after that, my grandmother was moving out of their big house into a smaller place. And part of that involved basically going through the big house and
tearing down,
having a big, like, estate sale is not really the proper term for it, but it was basically, we're going to already sort of move away all of the stuff that we're going to be keeping and whatnot, and everything that's kind of left, we're just going to basically, like, open up the house and people can go through, and we're going to try and sell as much of it as we can. While we were going through and setting prices on stuff and whatnot, I found a 1957 edition. Oh, I thought I had it around here. Oh, there it is.
On that bookshelf behind you of all the other books you have.
Yeah, 1957 edition of the Yale Shakespeare.
Oh, wow.
This is a complete collection. Each play has its own volume.
Yeah.
So these are like little, and obviously people listening can't see it, but this is like a small...
Like a 4x6 or a 5x7 chapbook. But it's a hardcover. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hardcover. But there's one for each of the plays. There's one of the poetry and one of the sonnets. And I think there was I haven't looked at the whole thing in a while, but I think there's also a book about like Shakespeare's England or something like that as a little bit like of historical context. Because if you get like if you go to a bookstore and buy like the Folger edition of a play, it'll have a whole bunch of contextual stuff in the front talking about various stuff. Anyway, I decided that, I am going to take this. This is not going to be going up for sale. I am going to take this and I'm going to keep it. And I spent that summer basically working through the plays. I read all of the tragedies. I read most of the comedies and maybe about half of the
sonnets and poems.
I think, like, all told, I ended up reading about 2/3 of the plays. The histories being the third category. But that's what I did one summer. I love the language. I haven't actually done a Shakespeare play prior to Julius Caesar since high school, but I absolutely adore the language. I like breaking it down. I like the ability to interpret it as a performer so that people can understand what is being said, even though while it is
Old English,
early modern English, well, it's not Old English. It's old in the sense that it is from the late 16th, early 17th century, but it is early modern English. And there is so much, both in our just like regular language, but also in terms of when we're talking about English and by extension, sort of American literature and creativity, so much goes back to Shakespeare. And unlike some cases where writers become famous kind of after they're gone and people go back and go like, oh, hey, this was great, Shakespeare was beloved in his own time. The reason that we have his plays, because it wasn't common for those sorts of things to be published, there were a bunch of playwrights that were contemporaries of Shakespeare that we have almost nothing surviving from their works. Because when Shakespeare died, his friends and acting company and whatnot were like, we should save this stuff. So I love it. It's fantastic. And working with this group who has been doing Shakespeare for like the past 20 years is phenomenal. They've been doing a summer Shakespeare production almost every year since the early 2000s.
Nice.
They really know their stuff.
They do. And thus ends Josh's and Dan's Shakespeare podcast.
And thus ends my...
No, we're good. It's catching everybody else up because they're here for the both of us, not just Better-thon, but mostly Better-thon, yes. So today we're going to talk about Vivane Adventure number 2, written by Chris McCubbin. This is a message to Vivane. It's supposed to be run for about 3 to 6 characters, third circle or higher. It's told in 6 parts. This one, I think, is one of the more complete adventures that I read that we've talked about at all. And I think you said before we hit the record button, you may have actually run this one at one point in time.
Yes.
This is the one you ran.
This is definitely one I ran because the setup on this is ostensibly the characters are hired in thrall to travel to Vivane to deliver information to the Resistance. Yes. And so my group, the Earth Dawn campaign that I often, even though I ran multiple ones, but the one that I think of, the one that has Solar and Ulm and other characters that people recognize, maybe from the examples in the 4th edition books, because they were in service at this point to Thrall, they were sort of free agents. They were asked to do this adventure. They were asked to do this task.
Totally. I like this one because it's got, it even tells you in the preface that this is going to involve espionage and combat and subtlety and restraint. And so it really should be for, like I said, third circle or higher. You should know your character by now, and you should be able to pull off any and all of those aspects. And so you should have been able to figure out who your character is and how they will react in certain circumstances, because these circumstances are going to be slightly new. You're going to a whole new city on behalf of someone else to deliver something. So you're literally doing a milk run, go drop this off. No, I'm not going to tell you what it is. It is rather important, but you're going to go to a whole new city and test out how well you do there. So part 1 is called The Commission. The player characters are invited because of their reputations or their previous deeds, or they're starting to get some renown or some knowing to them. They're in the area. They're going to dine with Akarain Nabarik. Am I saying that at all correctly, or is this all Scrabble tiles and we don't care?
I would probably say Akarin rather than Akareen, but
so
it's a fantasy name. It's not a big deal.
No, it's the fact that I can't read my own notes anymore. I have hit the age where I know now, and I need to admit I'm using reading glasses. I just didn't have my reading glasses in. So there's that. So in whichever city you happen to be in, doesn't matter. That's the whole point, is the resistance can be involved in any city. And Akarin can be anywhere as well. Like you said, Thrall, Bartertown, take your pick. Doesn't matter. Wherever the player characters happen to be now is just fine. Some wine will be served. Some ale might be served. Stories will proceed. Lots of role-playing in this scenario to meet your host, trade some legends, tell them of your previous stories in Daring Do. So get to know that. So that's part of the whole role-playing aspect. And you will be headed to the old city, air quotes, of Vivane. And he's going to pay you 3,000 silver now, 5,000 silver later. Plenty of change to, this is going to entice you to want to go on this little travel here. Now, Akarin is going to suggest to you a best route on how to get from where you are to the old city of Vivane. And the journey there can be lengthy, can be involved. Game Master can hand wave it. You can make this little mini adventure in between getting this job and going to old city of Vivane. Knock yourself out. Josh, how did this work out for you? Or any other suggestions I may have missed?
I can't think of anything that you've really missed. It has been
decades,
a long time since I've run this. This was a campaign that I was running in the 90s, back under first edition. If I'm recalling correctly, I tweaked the introduction a little bit. Pretty sure I ran this after I had run the bulk of Prelude to War.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Or maybe it was sort of something that I did in the midst of the Prelude to War stuff. I never ran the Birth of Carafad storyline out of Prelude to War. I was going to, and then the campaign finally fell apart. But I'm pretty sure I kind of ran this towards the end and had it where the group was already in service to Thrall. And rather than have it be purely that this merchant managed to come across this information and was going to deliver it to the Resistance, it was information that was coming partially through the Eye of Thrall, and the merchant was kind of acting as a go-between to try and help minimize the potential exposure to the secrets that were being revealed, and it was being delivered to the Resistance to help prep for a stronger working relationship between the Eye of Thrall and the Resistance, thinking that if we can establish these communications and establish our goodwill by providing this information to the Resistance, then that may be helpful in the future when we get to the point where we're going to be potentially acting against Vivane. But Kingdom of Thrall didn't really have any purpose for it at that time, and it would have served in better hands in the Resistance. And so again, it was kind of like we'll give you this information as an indication of our goodwill and our desire to support what you are doing against the Therans because of, everything that had kind of gone down with the Battle of Praedor's Field and all of that stuff. And the arrival of the Triumph and such.
So you meet and greet, talk stories, talk shop, well fed, get paid, a little bit up front, get this item. I believe it's a scroll that actually details some weaknesses or the military might of Vivane. And so this is like the Death Star plans in Star Wars. Not quite like
It's not quite that important, but it does provide details on some magical defenses, both of Vivane and Skypoint itself, including the names of several magical artifacts that could be found, which is something that is a rather, given the importance of names and the ability to use it, expose some weaknesses, because basically you have the information on that, you're going to be able to plan to counter them when that comes to be.
So part 2, kind of short. So this is Vivane. You're going to meet the guards at the gates of the Theran quarter. And at that point, they're going to issue you a week-long pass. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since I looked at the calendar. Vivane weeks are done in 5 days, whereas Barsave is 7, right? Because I remember Thera does theirs in this is week 50 of some odd.
Yeah, I think it is 5-day weeks. That does sound.
They don't do months. They
correct.
Just do. This is the week number of the year, and they're all in 5-day weeks because there's 365 days. It's like 60 odd weeks or something like that. Anyway, one of those things. So just know that it's 5 days, not 7. But the Wedge and the Liar's Wharf, and you're going to meet the Resistance contact. This is where your espionage is going to take place. So this is how subtle can you be, how restrained can you be, how sneaky, devious, and unnoticeable can you be. Do you have to change your entire persona? No, but you may want to change the way your character dresses and behaves for this, just because you have to meet somebody in a clandestine fashion. So, any memories or anything I missed?
Not in particular. Like, the early stage of things is arriving in the city and getting exposed to the Theran corruption that exists, because the guards are kind of rude until you hand over the bribe that was sent as a way to get past them, and then you hand them and you're like, oh yes, absolutely, here, let us open the gates for you and let you in.
Yes.
And then there's the difference between the initial contact and then where the handoff is sort of made. There is an emphasis on what would be to traditional Barsavian adventurers a taste of the exotic, of the strange and slightly unusual, dealing with this different culture. But largely, the player characters have been sent with a cover story. Yes, they are delivering a package, and here is the package that they are supposedly delivering, rather than the actual covert information. And so the idea is, oh, look, they're coming with this box of valuables, of gems and jewelry and various other things. This is why they're coming in. Traditional merchant delivery kind of thing with valuable cargo. Small, but valuable cargo, which succeeds as its cover to get them where they need to be within the city.
Fair. So, just step by step, this is step 2. And then, of course, there's the delivery. And you have to make your way to Liar's Wharf, and without a map, of course, figure this out where you're going, to meet your Resistance contact, or contacts, plural, Kron and Caleb. And, of course, the Theran 8th Legion kind of bursts in to raid the joint at the time that this is going on. So this is your chance to either fight and or escape. So you can fight or escape or do both. Take your pick. So again, it's one of those, know your characters well enough to see what they would actually do in this situation and how things are going when you meet Kron and Caleb to hand over this good. You will stumble upon the Red Squad. This is in page 40 of the Barsavian Vivane book. And care to illuminate about the Red Squad if you have any recollection?
Oh, yeah. We had talked about them, that there were 3 different categories, 3 different squads that are kind of each responsible for patrolling or covering different parts of the city. At this point, it was a few weeks ago. I don't remember the specifics. The Red Squad, I think, was that the one that was mainly Barsavians? And so they had a really kind of bad relationship, or was that... Yeah, see, Dan's grabbing the book.
The Red Squad is generally well-liked and supported for the Barsavian trustees and those few Therans who live outside the Old City. The squad's close cooperation with the Watch reaffirms that the militia is firmly on the side of law and order and can certainly cope with any noisome Broken Quarter dwellers who might dare to congregate in the area for one of their sporadic food riots.
Okay,
Red Squad members are drawn from Barsavians like themselves, yes.
Yeah. The Red Squad are not the ones that have the really awful relationship with the folks in the Broken Quarter.
Yeah, that's not them.
Anyway, the place that they are meeting their Resistance contact gets raided by the Therans purely by coincidence. The Therans do not know that the players have brought this information into the city. They just happen to be in the place.
It's a coincidence.
Yeah, it's a coincidence. The squad shows up, and then the reaction is, there may be a little bit of fighting, but it's more at this point, we need to get out of here. We need to get you guys out of here, because if you get captured or I get captured, they'll find what they were after, and this whole thing will be worthless.
They'll confiscate all your stuff.
Yeah, we get this lovely little chase scene. Mm-hmm. I love the way that it handles the mechanics of this. Yeah. This actually is somewhat of the inspiration for the chase rules that I kind of came up with, that I used as a couple of examples in 4th edition. And that is that you are running through the streets. Here are some challenges and problems and obstacles that you can run into. And
I made a list.
Yeah. There's quite a number of different options here.
Walls, exhaustion, dead animals, rooftops, shortcuts, crowds, dead ends, drunk NPCs, abattoirs, ledge crawls, and falling. He didn't list falling, but I'm like, falling's always in there because falling damage table is a nice thing.
Not necessarily a scripted series of events. It's more like, hey, here are a bunch of things that can happen, and you can kind of put them in whatever order you want. There are tests that are involved. There are challenges, both physical and mental, when you're going through the abattoir, which is basically an alley that is adjacent to the fish market. So it's got all of the fish guts and remains and stuff that it kind of smells. And so people need to make willpower tests in order to not throw up, or make a dexterity check so they avoid falling into a pit of animal guts. You know, running along a rooftop, potentially, if you slip and fall, you might take damage. And so it's, you know, intended to be a kind of high pressure, tense situation, but that ultimately the group escapes the Therans, because the Therans are not after them specifically. The Therans are just kind of busting up this place. They're doing like the police raid of the known criminal hangout, busting the heads that they can bust, and the group escapes. And then they discover, in the aftermath of that, Therans also raided the place where the scroll was being verified for its authenticity, but the Therans didn't know what it was, and it actually falls into the hands of a gang.
Yeah. And is that's the manor house of Lygus Arvanen? Because you arrive eventually at Lygus Arvanen's manor.
Yeah, that's kind of the place where the next stage of things happens. It's the safe house that Kron, who's their resistance contact, is leading them to. It's the supposed safe house.
Air quotes. Safe. It's going to get busted as well.
Yeah. Presumably safe. And so there's kind of like a little bit of tension, argument between Kron and Arvanen about what they should do next, because why did this place get raided? What's going on? We need to find things out. And while that's going on, the Therans raid that place and end up executing Arvanen and Arvanen's servant. And so there is another, like, try and sneak away to escape the Therans, staying just one step ahead of them. And it is in the aftermath of that, turns out that there was a coordinated raid of multiple locations during the night.
It's kind of like Elliot Ness and the Untouchables. They just hit like 4 places all at the same time. That way you get either you collect everybody, or you get everyone to scatter and leave no place to go to ground 2. So,
fortunately, the Therans don't know what the player characters have brought to the city. They just happened that they arrived at the time that the Therans were doing a sweep against the resistance, against the rebel cells, go in and just like arrest and rapidly execute people, rather than we're looking for this information.
Yeah.
They aren't aware that it's in the city at all.
Player characters happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time twice in the same night. So it's just that coincidence of these things can and do happen. So it's going to happen. Otherwise, you really need to, the player characters really need to try and keep Kron alive, because he's your only way out, and he's your only way to get the rest of the money you were promised to get. So during the whole escape and stealthy escape at that, not to be noticed if you possibly can. Make sure you keep Kron with you because he's kind of important. He's your contact. So, part 4, you finally get to the secret room. Actually, that's what it's called, is the secret room. Caleb was raided while verifying the scroll. Time to retrieve it again. And this time you're leaving the merchant's quarter, headed into the broken quarter at the cellar of a, air quotes, building in the Undercity options, really. So basically, remember the Undercity podcast we recorded a couple of weeks ago and what all that entails, because it could be anything. And
also the text here refers to the previous adventure, which we talked about, chasing the snakeskin boots, because that does culminate in venturing into the Undercity. Given the setup for this one, I find it a little bit awkward to have chasing the snakeskin boots go before this one, because the idea is that chasing the snakeskin boots is a really nice introduction to the thing, but then the group needs to go elsewhere to find, like, have other adventures to find stuff to come back. It is possible, but I find this one, in a way, if you've got a group that's been adventuring in other parts of Barsave, this adventure is a really good way to get them to Vivane, to introduce them to Vivane, to kind of have that be the situation.
I agree. I think this one it's a better introduction because it's more thorough. And again, since we were playing tour guide from Thrall to Vivane in the same way, I think this adventure does the same thing. Go here to this gate, meet them. You finally walk into the city. Fantastic time for the Game Master to describe, lay down as much flavor text as you possibly can in all of your descriptions. So go there. Once you finally get to this building in the Undercity, it's time to rest a little bit over this incredibly long chase scene that you've been doing all night long. In the morning, you learn that Caleb traded the scroll for quick passage out of Vivane. That was his only leverage, and so you've basically got 2 days to raise enough money to buy the scroll back, or the player characters can fight to get it back, or player characters can just cut their losses and get out of Vivane.
There are a couple of different options. Obviously, like, after having been on the run, after having their mission essentially go awry because of circumstances beyond their control that didn't have anything to do with what they were actually doing, they just kind of got caught up in things, which is always wonderful. I love it in those kind of situations where you're trying to make the best of a bad situation. This crime boss who got the scroll from the other person, pay me a bunch of money to get this back, or I'm going to turn it over to the Therans and get a bunch of money from them. And the idea is the amount of money that he is asking for is outside of the range of whatever funds the characters might have on them. The suggestion is like 25,000 silver. It's an
exorbitant amount.
Yeah, some kind of like ridiculously stupid amount of money. That's option one. And because of the time crunch, you only have 2 days to come up with it. So it's not like the group can send word to Thrall or some other place to have the money put together to come and pay them before the deadline.
You're not at your home where you can like sell stuff or leverage things or call in all your favors. You're ways away.
Yeah. Or Kron knows where the base of operations is. You guys are experienced adepts with a little bit of reputation. We can go beat them up and steal the scroll back, which will probably involve like beating the crap out of people, which, given everything that has happened thus far, is probably going to have, certainly martial player characters going,
let's do that.
Yeah, let's go do that. It's not against the Therans, but it's like, let's go beat up this guy who is being a jerk about this whole thing.
Masters heard option 1, option 1A, and option 1B, and that alone.
Or, alternately, nope, heat's too high, we're going to get out of here. If you've been doing other Prelude to War style adventures with the group, the player characters will potentially have a reputation with the Therans, right? Yeah. Because, again, in my campaign, this adventure took place after the Dragon's Daughter thread in Prelude to War where they chase down Hefera and deliver him to Icewing and then deliver his bones to the Triumph. The group basically were pretending to be another adventuring group that worked for the Therans and infiltrated the Triumph and were like deep in the bowels of it. You know, they also had the encounter where they, I think it's in the Serpent River book. They salvage one of the Theran stone airships that was sunk by the Shivalahala. They had been working against the Therans often enough that they had kind of developed a reputation. And so, well, we don't want this information to be returned to the Therans. We want the people who are supposed to have it. Yeah, let's go beat up some people to get it back.
Exactly. And, Kron could offer some incentives for you to stay and do not necessarily the right thing, but see it all the way through to the end. Money eventually. He might be able to promise some of that eventually. Blackmail, if he really has to get down to things. Or he might...
Again, to kind of put it in the context of what I was doing, he could say, I could turn you guys over to the Therans. I could arrange for the Therans to find you. I don't know that you want that to happen.
From around here, we could, they don't care. Or he could, as I can say, it's the last resort, but one of his other options, depending on how the game master wants to play this, is he could appeal to your sense of honor and legend in the story and helping the resistance and growing your namesake that way. So all of those are possibilities for the game master to lean on. Eventually, part 5 gets to the Marikis's gang. It's time to fight to get the scroll if you guys stay. If you all eject out of here and leave Vivane, you're done. If you continue to see this through, tactics can be provided by Kron or the player characters as to how you are going to go get this scroll back. There are 14 total gang members to go up against. Plan accordingly. Maybe. Wing it. Maybe as well. Game Master may adjust as you see fit. If it's too many or too few for the party, go for it. This would be the battle royale, essentially. Eventually, the city militia does arrive to break it all up eventually. So the Game Master might find a good time if the party is getting wiped out, have them intervene earlier. If the party is not getting wiped out, have them show up whenever you want. And that's just the penultimate section of this adventure. After that, there's the loose ends. The follow-up adventure options are here as well.
Regardless of the outcome of the raid on the gang leader's base, it's possible that his lieutenant, who's a windling, if he recognizes that things are going badly, will grab the scroll and flee with it. Regardless of the outcome, Kron will, following the storyline in here, will basically get the characters out of the city as quickly as he can. He will either meet them afterwards or lead them out of the Undercity, get them to the docks, get them secretly aboard a ship that hoists anchor and heads out. He gives them a token, a few hundred silver, because that's all he has at the time, but to basically cover travel expenses to get away. And then the idea being, sometime down the road, the group will meet with him again in some other place and get caught up, give a, hey, here's what happened in the aftermath of this.
And if we can provide you more, we will. If not, thanks for your efforts.
And they receive at that point the balance of their payment.
So all in all, not, like I said, I think I like this adventure for its multiple and complex ideas. There's a little bit of travel. You have to do the espionage. You get to, at the very beginning, tell the employer your former exploits as well, which is a nice way to brag about yourself.
It's espionage in the way that a James Bond movie is espionage. Yeah, there's a little bit of deception, but it's more like you are delivering these secret documents to people, and then things kind of go south, and so it's more like Jason Bourne thriller territory rather than like espionage.
Fair. I mean, if you do it right, no one should ever know.
Right.
That's the whole thing. This is not going to go that way because of circumstances, again, out of your control.
Ideally, the Therans never find out what was actually going on. That's ultimately what you're hoping for, but it doesn't mean that things, go smoothly.
No, you're gonna get caught in the dragnet. Just don't let them know that thing that you're transporting is important.
Just once, I would like things to go smooth. How come they never go smooth? I really like this adventure. I think this was maybe the only one. I would need to double check the third one. I know I ran this one because of the framing connection where they're outside the city and sent to the city to deliver this information.
No, I dig this. This is well done, well written. It's got enough of the if-then statements that the players have some agency as to how things are gonna go and what they can do about it. And as you said, it brings in the mechanics to the physicality that they need to do to make the chase scenes work.
It's linear in the way that I like a linear adventure to be, as is the case with a lot of published adventures. It's somewhat railroady.
They all kind of have to be a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of flexibility. There is a possibility of a couple of different outcomes overall, but it plays fair. I remember that there was an adventure that I commented that was this feels very Shadowrun. This is also a little bit Shadowrun-y, but not quite to the same extent. Yes. Hey, you have a job, and the job itself is fairly simple, but then you arrive and things go south and you need to deal with the aftermath of that. The railroady part is things have gone south and now you need to deal with the aftermath of it. There is some choice in terms of how you resolve the final problem, but again, it feels like it's playing fair. It's not like, oh, hey, you arrived with the information and the Therans are targeting you because they know you're there with the information. It's just you happened to be at the place and time where they were doing these raids. Whoops.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that happens. Again, it feels very good in terms of a thriller, espionage, James Bond, Jason Bourne. It's not real spy work, which tends to be rather boring and looking at reports.
This is the easiest field work for a spy you'll ever get. Just take this over there, hand it off, and get paid. Things are going to happen, but they're not related to what you're doing.
Yeah. It's that level of excitement and uncertainty and crap, things are going badly, but not because we're being targeted. They just happen to be going badly for everyone around us at the same time.
You're in the speakeasy while it's getting raided by Elliot Ness and the Untouchables for, the alcohol they're being served. You happen to be there having a good time.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Desire Box from Parlinked Adventures. Yes. A bunch of stuff is happening. You just kind of got to deal with it as best you can. Because,
to your point, not of all the adventures we've read about and discussed on the podcast, this is, I think, to your the second or third that's like that. Just stuff happens. It's coincidental. It's not directly related to it, but just surprise, this is happening.
Yeah.
So it's rare.
I think it's really good to take as a inspiration, as lessons on how you can make an adventure interesting in different ways. Go all the way back to Infected, right? Yeah. Infected is kind of well, here's the thing that's going on. You're hired to go and do this job, and you go and you find the situation, and you kind of need to deal with it. That school of adventure design, of you're designing situations, you're creating situations and scenarios rather than plots that allows the player characters to kind of do what they would do based on their characters' abilities and desires. If you've got a group that is probably going to be more inclined to try and do a knockdown drag out with the Red Squad, obviously you're going to need to deal with that, but it's kind of presented as, no, we've still got a job to do. Probably don't want to draw too much attention to ourselves from the Therans while we're here.
And do you really want to take on the entire 8th Legion? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Red Squad might be a little bit more amenable. The 8th Legion is not going to be. They don't care how much money you have to bribe them. Any further final thoughts? Do you remember how this resolved in your campaign 30-odd years ago?
I don't. I'm pretty sure that my group, because they were certainly not Third Circle, I think they were low journeymen at the time that I ran this, they handled Macris's gang fairly handily, because we had, our group would have had a sword master, a Sky Raider, a weaponsmith, a wizard who also at that point had both elementalism and nethermancy, I think, because he was a human. He had those thread weavings.
For versatility.
We had an illusionist. I think that was our... I think we still had the archer in the group at that point. They were a pretty hefty group.
They're in for a tussle.
Yeah. I don't recall that...
The gang fared well.
The gang was a particularly difficult fight overall. I think the difficulty was more in just trying to avoid attracting too much attention when they were beating the snot out of those people and retrieving the scroll.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
And then I think they left the city. I think they were only there for that one adventure.
They're like, yeah, we're done now. We caused enough problems. We're going to get out of town. So next episode should be about the Theran quarter of Vivane. So stay tuned for that whenever we can get around to it, providing all the electronics and software decide to work on a consistent basis again. We'll see how we do. Until next time, folks, go engage in espionage for your legend.
Good night, everybody.